Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Spiritual Unity Radio Network, a station dedicated to the concept that all manifestations of the divine are equally valid. Join Reverend Terry Power HP, Robin McKean, and all the hosts for programming covering a wide range of spiritual topics, right here on Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to an emerging forest, a safe place where we have the freedom to think about life without judgment. We take a look at society, we examine it, and we allow for the possibility of something new, something different. And now, here's your host, Alan Ritter.
Welcome, everyone, to this Sunday evening, 23rd of December. And let me check. I don't think it's the last Sunday in December. Is it the last Sunday? No, there's one more Sunday in December, the 30th. But this is the last Sunday before Christmas. If you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas to you. If you don't celebrate Christmas, Merry no time. Happy no time, but I don't have to say happy to anyone who understands that out beyond the notions of right doing and wrong doing, there is a field, and I'll meet you there. Because in my perspective, we're all building and we're all receiving exactly what we're supposed to be receiving. We are in a constant state of bliss, and you don't have to travel to heaven. You are in it. And you don't have to go find a guru to teach you, because you are the guru and you bring your teacher to you every instant with the most appropriate of circumstances. So dig right in. Your heaven is. You are in it. Your body is in it. Your soul is bringing it to you. Tonight, I wanted to talk about a topic that had come up in my head over the week. It's a subject that I took a lot of interest in. It's several subjects that I've taken a reasonable amount of time to look at over the years. And it's soil fertility, personal fertility, mental fertility, social fertility. And for some reason, I seem to come back to this topic. The emerging forest is about my personal wish, my personal intent of increasing fertility. So one of the ways to increase, understand different perspectives and understand different channels. Sometimes this is very, very difficult, because there are other people, or it is proposed that there are other people that are soul beings here, and, or at least I propose that sometimes. Sometimes I don't propose it when I'm arguing the other side of the coin. But they certainly, if they are souled beings, they certainly have valid perspectives And those perspectives are not intelligible to us because, frankly, our own perspective is not intelligible to us. What we are doing here is not intelligible. It's very strange, but I hope I have a general direction, but hoping and perceiving as a human is quite the false first step. So tonight, as I do many times, I'd like to start with some examples so we can, I can sort of migrate you from wherever you are to understand the fibs that I'm going to present later in the hour. So some of this is stuff I've presented previously, so I'm not going to go that deeply into it. I'm just going to present what needs to be presented in order to progress to the second section of the talk, second segment of the program tonight. So that's my plan, and my plan can always be pushed aside because of your plan. And if you're planning to call me and be on the show, please do. I don't care if you want to talk about what I want to talk about. It would be nice. But what do you want to talk about? So let's see what you want to talk about tonight. That would be nice. The number to call in to be on the radio show tonight is 646-564-9714. That is 646-564-9714. Okay, so let's start with the soil. There's lots of biology books and lots of soil books and lots of departments in universities called Practice on Soil Science, and lots of farming and lots of information about how to treat soil. But from my understanding of how to grow soil, there aren't really that many people who even have a rudimentary understanding of how to grow soil. It's not very popular to grow soil. It's more popular to fertilize it, spray it, and control as many of the circumstances around it as possible so that a passable crop comes out, not a super. That's commercial farming in general. I'm not pointing a finger at small farmers. Small farmers are the ones that know a little bit better, but large farmers that make up the overly vast majority of the food that's brought to table in the United States and probably in the world are industrial-sized commercial farmers, and they spray. They spray organics, they spray conventional produce. It's all sprayed. But in general, and this is information that I've learned from studying Bob Kennard and other sources, soil is so complex that it is not understandable. It's like our souls are so complex, they're not understandable. So it's better to set the table for growing a soil as close to natural process as possible, which is why farming this way is called natural process. a subject addressed in a magazine called Acres USA. And that would be as close to hands-off as possible. Then, under those circumstances, to say, we don't know what's going on, we can begin to appreciate what's going on, but we can never know all that's going on in the soil. There's too many things going on. And be happy with a fraction of what's grown. Say, okay, we understand that if we just take this small fraction of the largesse of nature, and nature is incredibly generous, we just take this small piece and don't push the balance off, we will eat we will live and eat and live our lives in incredible bounty. And nature will also. But then in steps, I want to be rich man, and I want to be rich man says, and I want to control man. I want to be in control of nature. I want to be in control of other people. I want to rule. I want to see my perspective come through, and I want to crush all others before me because mine is first. And in crushing other perspectives, you're also crushing nature, as it were. And in this perspective, the most capitalization or cash or profit must be and in this way there isn't we'll take 1% and nature can have 99%. It's we want to take as much as possible, and we don't have any inefficiencies in the process. So everything that is there, we want to craft the process so that there is no quote unquote waste product. It's all sold. There's nothing left for the soil in this case. So man rules over nature beyond man's ability to understand, and man makes universities, and man dispenses science in those universities, which still doesn't understand nature. And man goes down through century after century, continuing to solidify his view that he understands this process, which he does not understand. And so now here we are, many hundreds of years into this process of man's grasp on understanding and man's application of that misunderstanding, man's grasp exceeding his reach, or what happens when the balance is pushed more than it can be pushed. Nature crumbles. The Garden of Eden turns to a desert in man's hands. So we have going on. Just look around you. So in order to make this point and bring in one of the other contributors in society, money and money manipulation. I'd like to give you an example of the impact of man's misunderstanding and man's propensity to say, I want it all for myself. Right? So man likes to create money from nothing. This is called fractional reserve banking, and it's a lawful process these days. It's also a very tenuous process because after a while of creating money from nothing, the money is all nothing and there isn't any money in it. And over thousands of years, the event that follows people connecting A to B is called a hyperinflation, in which the money goes from being in reality valueless, but then public connects that it's valueless and the money is no longer able to purchase anything. You can look up many examples of hyperinflation. They've happened all over our game space for forever. Bolivia, the Bolivar, Poland. One famous example was in 1920s Germany, where the mark died. Well, it didn't die. It became 10 to the 6 to buy a loaf, 10 to the 6 marks to buy a loaf of bread. Weeks before it was like 4 or less. In other words, your savings become meaningless. So man likes to create money from nothing and loan it to himself and call the resulting economy a healthy one. So if a government can be in league with a bank saying, oh, that bank is legal, and one of the reasons that the government likes to be in league with this bank is because it gets lots and lots of money to fund its programs and also to throw to its populace, and its populace feels wealthy, and its populace sees that it's well fed because of all of this money. This is anything but healthy, as you may or there have been some hiccups in the system. The crisis in housing, one of those hiccups. There are many hiccups. Lots of symptoms that the economic gut is not well. The compost heap of dollars is based on something that shouldn't be in the stomach of the economy. So after many dances around the fire, when all these loans come due, no one can pay. And they default. So kings default, and they smile at each other. Governments default, and they smile at each other. And because the loans don't get paid, the money loses confidence. And this can be seen in, as I said previously or alluded to previously, many monetary events in history. Let's talk about one such event so that I can give you a perspective, the magnitude of the impact of such an event. So there is a rather lengthy book that's on the Mises Ludwig on Mises website. It is by a gentleman whose last name is DeSoto, and the book is called Money, Bank Credit, and Economic Cycles. And I am reading from page 70. And page 70 begins, banking in Florence and in the 14th century. Around the end of the 12th and the beginning of the 13th centuries, Florence was the site of an incipient banking industry, which gained great importance in the 14th century. The following families owned many of the most important banks. And I'm going to butcher these Italian names, so please pardon me. The Ascianiolis, the Bonacorsis, the Cochis, the Antalices, Corsinis, the Ozanos, the Perendolis, and the Peruzis and the Bardis. Pardon me for my mispronunciations, please. Evidence shows that from the beginning of the 14th century, bankers gradually began to make fraudulent use of a portion of the money on demand deposit, creating out of nowhere a significant amount of expansionary credit. It's money out of nowhere that we were talking about before. Therefore, it is not surprising that an increase in money supply in the form of credit expansion caused an artificial economic boom, followed by a profound, inevitable recession. This recession was triggered not only by the Neapolitan prince's massive withdrawal of funds, but also by England's inability to repay its loans and the drastic fall in the price of the Florentine government bonds as a result of those removal of funds and inability to repay loans. So you can see in Florence, public debt had been financed by speculative new loans created out of nowhere by Florentine banks. A general crisis of confidence occurred, causing all the above banks to fail between, and these dates are important, 1341 and 1346. As could be expected, these banking failures were detrimental to all deposit holders who, after a prolonged period, received half, a third of their deposits at most. And of course, that is of a devalued, basically worthless currency at that point, because the entire apple cart was upset and the currency was valueless. So at the end of, let's read that sentence again, because it's very important. As could be expected, these banking failures were detrimental to all deposit holders who, first delay, after a prolonged period, as though you went to the bank to withdraw your money and they didn't have it because it was, there was a crisis, so everyone was turned away. And then everyone was turned away every day for a certain amount of time until the banks would actually close. This has happened around the world as well. Even after the banks reopened, your account would be settled for some pittance of what you had on file. In addition to that, that money was devalued, even if you received a third or a fifth of their deposits at most. At most. Continuing. Fortunately, an author called Villani recorded the economic and financial events of this period in a chronicle that Carlo M. has resurrected. According to Villani, the recession was accompanied by a tremendous tightening of credit, referred to descriptively as manchamento della credenza, or credit shortage, which further worsened economic conditions. and brought about a deluge of industry, workshop, and business failures. Chipola has studied this economic recession in depth and graphically describes the transition from economic boom to crisis and recession in this way. The age of, quote-unquote, the canticle of the sun gave way to the age of the danse macabre. In fact, according to Chipola, the recession lasted until, thanks to the devastating events of the plague, which radically diminished the population, the supply of cash and credit money per capita approached its pre-crisis level and laid the foundation for a subsequent recovery. Okay, so now they're bringing in the second shoe, the other shoe that dropped. So here there is a preparation of conditions over a period of 5 years. A massive amount of the industry in Florence and in the area, because these were Florentine banks, so it is a huge impact not only in Italy but in the surrounding countries, because Italy is a banking center. It's not just in Italy. The money issues were, as I read previously, all the way in England. So many, many industries, workshops, and businesses failed. People who had deposits in banks received nothing from their deposits. Industry, basic industries were moving at a very, very slowly, if at all. And this is during the period of 1341 to 1346. At this point, I am going to take a break, and I will be back to talk to you after the break. And favorite song is Dave the Bard, Green and Gray. See you in a few minutes.
Round the 1st of May, a man in black came walking into a woodland glade, following the sounds of pipes on this beautiful spring day, high from the music that they made. But what beheld him within that place, a look of recognition fell across his face. Oh Lucifer, why do you appear to me? For I am a man of God, a priest. I'm no devil, I'm father to the land. I have been here since the earth began. Neither black nor white, priest, hear what I say. I'm green and gray. The priest said, Lucifer, you light so well. I pray unto my God, now go back to the fires of hell. You fell from heaven, and you fell from grace. You want dominion over this place. The piper smiled to the priest, he said, I was lord of animals, the wild hunt I led, until your God came here and with his jealous hand, it was he who wanted dominion over this land. For I'm no devil, I'm father to the land. I have been here since the earth began. Neither black nor white, priest, hear what I say. I'm green and gray. The priest said all evil comes from your hand. The piper said if evil is where it lies in the hearts of man. But you lead us, oh you tempt us, to rape, to steal, to kill. The piper said whatever happened to free will? Then the grove lay empty, the priest told no one. The blossom lay upon the thorn, and the piper's tune was done. And in the sunlit forest, the animals they bowed, as the piper laid his goddess down. For I'm no devil, I'm father to the land. I have been here since the earth began. Neither black nor white, priest, hear what I say. I'm green and gray. I'm green and gray. I'm green and gray. I'm green and gray.
Tune in to International Pagan Radio. You can hear your favorite artists such as Dave the Bard, Tuatha Dea, Spiral Rhythm, S.J. Tucker, Murphy's Midnight Rounders, and many, many more. Join us for exciting shows like Ask a Witch and Storytime with Rook as well. www.internationalpaganradio.com on the net or on TuneIn Radio on your mobile devices. Join us on Facebook and Twitter too. International Pagan Radio, all pagan, all the time.
Welcome back to an emerging forest on the Spiritual Unity Radio Network. We hope everyone was able to stretch their legs and get a drink. And now, back to Alan.
Welcome back, and if you'll recall, we're in Florence in 1341 to 1346, and the banks have failed due to credit expansion, and credit expansion has exceeded the grasp of ability to repay the loans, and loans have gone into default. And due to this default in loans, the Florentine the money unit, probably the lira, has become devalued, and there isn't all the banks, all the money disappeared from the banks, and depositors, after a long wait, and after watching the value of the currency that they were waiting for during their long wait, watching that value go down, they received a fraction, a small fraction at most, if they received anything from their deposits of money in the bank. Deposits, nonetheless, that made the credit expansion possible. Thus is the way of the banker. So this action of the currency led to a credit tightening because nobody wanted to loan money for business, because nobody had money and nobody wanted to loan money for business. The economy crashed. No one had money for next week's receipts. Businesses fail, your industries fail, your workshops fail, and no one has money to eat. No one has money to entertain. No one has money to do much of anything. And this process of getting ready for what took place next took 5 years, from 1341 to 1346. And I'll read to you what took place next. So the plague arrived in Europe in October 1347, when 12 ships from the Black Sea, which is why it's called, other reasons why it's called Black Death, 12 ships from the Black Sea docked at the Sicilian port of Messina. The Sicilian port, right in the midst of this Italian economic destruction. So what are these 12 ships? It's really interesting that it's 12 ships, because there are 12 disciples. Pretty funny. I don't take that as being funny. I take that as being a signal that someone is trying to wave their finger at you and say, our fingerprints are all over this. And also they're waiting for the quote-unquote dance macabre to reach its point economically, and for the resistance of the population to have decreased to a certain level. And then they send their apostles' number of ships along to Messina to release the rats and release the fleas upon the rats, which began the spread of the Black Death into Europe. So this is about fertility. This is about immunology. Immunology, of course, the people in application in Italy and Europe in general at that point were so immunodepressed by this bust and inability to feed themselves and destruction of their saved wealth. They were in prime condition to receive this injection of disease, which they did. And they all died. Many of them died. So the next idea that I would like to is we have the same money system now as they did then. It's vastly inflated. There is no real basis. There's no real value on which the money is coined. It used to be silver. It used to be gold. It is now 100% fiat, 100% by declaration. This is money, and it is worth X. It is worth. It is a transitory medium. You transition it from A to B, taking it as a value marker for your labor and purchasing for it goods and calling that a good deal. It's the nature of money. That's what money does. So looking at society, one can say, and I had this idea pass through my mind earlier in the week and wrote it as a Facebook post. Society can be seen as a number of countries, and society can be seen as fertile because there's a number of languages and a number of different cultures. But when a funny, intuitive moment, basically I said to myself, well, I don't believe that there are that many countries, that there are that many different systems of economy, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the systems of fertility. So in almost all countries today, there's one system of economic fertility, that's the corporate system, and the banking system accompanies that corporate system. So that banking system is the same greedy man rules over nature, man knows better, nature crushing, anti-emerging forest beast. And so now I think I have presented the basis material, or the material that I wanted to present you with. So what I want you to do now is I don't want you to get discouraged. I want you to be encouraged, because at least you know this is my opinion. This is not general opinion. Do your own research. I've given you my references. Write me an email. My email address is rittbr_ALAN88@gmail.com. Write me an email. Tell me what you think. This is where we stand today. I am not saying that tomorrow we're going to have a monetary crisis. I am not saying that at all. I'm saying this is the system of value that we have. This is the system of economy that we have. This is the system of treatment of nature that we have. This is where we are today. And my proposal, my intent, my platform at an emerging forest, is to say, this is the society that I grew up in. Bow to it. Thank you so much. I'm going to make as much a change in a fertile direction as I possibly can during my lifetime, because I am preparing during my lifetime, not for my progeny, but for my next lifetime, because I'll be right back here with the same work to do the next time I come back. And so I want to have made as much of an effort to push the vector of society toward fertility, because that seems to be the weight or the push or the what I wish to do. And the experiences that I want to have are experiences in a more fertile world. It's what I'm about. This is the news. What I basically talked to you about is this is where we are, this is who we are, these are the systems that at present the continued destruction and continued desertification of this ecosystem shows how barren the philosophy of those who have control is. Greed, nature just flows through their finger like water, flows through an open hand. Because they want it all for themselves, they can't have it all for themselves. They asked only 1%. If they asked nothing, they would receive everything. They crush it in the fist. They don't hold water. Can't hold water in a fist. You can share water and have it all, but you can't crush it in your hand and have any. So what I just talked to you in the first 3/4 of an hour is an assessment of where we are, my opinion. What are the roads forward? Please don't get discouraged. You know where you are. You have a better foundation under your feet. So here's where we are. And you can make such immense difference by doing simple things. Such immense difference. The first thing you can do is you can treat your body, your own personal compost. You can treat it better by eating more raw, whole foods. Not meat. Meat is not a meat is another excuse for power. If you have to eat meat, please eat it sparingly, but I propose that it's a wasted nutrient, a negative nutritional event. It's a bad thing. Well, there aren't bad things, but as far as policies that you should institute that would more carefully align yourself with your body wants to be more fertile, well, that one simple change, it's not a simple change. It will take years for you to do. But even your understanding that eating more plants is a benefit to your internal ecology. Eating more plants puts your vote to the world high. I eat more plants. They'll grow more plants for you to eat, even if they're conventional. Eating conventional plants is better than eating anything than processed. Watch Dr. Michael Greger how not to die. Much more information is much more accomplished than I don't need to be accomplished. He's a reference. Vastly more knowledgeable. Spent much more time doing this. I don't need to be his. I don't need to be his disciple. He's given us all the direction that we need. So we're not going to move away from the present structure. We're not going to revolt. What we're going to do is we're going to direct it. We want to direct it from inside by saying, first, we need more plants. And then by growing more plants locally to ourselves, by growing plants in yards, by dedicating a block in a neighborhood to be a farm, growing plants there for the local population to eat, so that the plants don't have to use fuel, be out of the area, so you can eat local, to grow the soil on that block, to create immuno-beneficial, uplifting fruits and vegetables so that the local population can actually walk in amongst those plants, choose the ones they want, have those plants change for them, because plants do change for you and give you things that aren't seen anyplace else because they know you. Plants are incredibly intelligent. You could say, we rule to misunderstand where we are. We are in a garden that is watered by the rain that comes from trees. So if you want to say trees water people, that is correct. So whether we are the quote-unquote rulers is misunderstanding. We are the tearfully grateful students of the land. Tearfully grateful is exactly who we are. So wherever you are, however much more each week you can afford the most beneficial, unless you know better than I do, the most beneficial thing you can do is spend a few more dollars to produce into your body, your family's body, grow sprouts on your windowsill, understand what the weeds are in your backyard and how many are edible. Most of them are. But understand first their edibility. Talk to your neighbors. Understand who is receptive and who is not receptive. Do things like I did. If you live in an area that is close to a large produce market, get together with 10 families, get together with 5 families, get together, just buy it and start sharing it with other people. Your goal isn't to make a profit. My goal with my produce club is to make a little bit of a profit. It is also to do this other thing, which is to inject as much immuno-enabling produce into as many bodies as I possibly can. To change the immunoprofile of the society, the neighborhood in which you live, because that sends a different racial message. Here is another society that is more plant-based. So the more plants I can inject I mean, that's my activism. The more plants I can inject into the local population, the better. It's not, I mean, people look at me and they say, I'm planning for the long term. I'm planning for long-term growth of my produce club, paying me very well. But I also have agendas that I don't even know about. I meet so many people. Help improve immune systems. Have people's families so that they're not sick now, but they used to be sick all the time. My fragility is simply grasp. So if you reach out and grasp something, a flower, and you grasp it, it dies in your hand. So if you wish to control nature, it dies in your hand. And there's a desert. If you wish to fraudulently make more money from nothing and have all of these loans to do all of these public projects, all those public projects are misappropriations of intention. Oh, I can do this and I can do that. You have economic boom, but money went to places that it was ill-advised to go to. No longer. So, once again, I'm not saying that there's going to be an economic bust soon. What I'm saying is there are other systems and other ways to live. Notice the one that you are in. Notice the set of circumstances that you are in. And you can make it your intention to understand more by reading Soto's and Money, Bank, Credit, and Economic Cycles, EESOPO. It is available on Mises.org website, PDF for free. They're probably not asking that much for a hardbound copy. First copy that I read was hardbound. It's another 900-page book that will completely change your life. Thank you so much, everyone out there, for listening. Thank you for listening. Either live or thank you for listening at some time in the future. Awesome Christmas if you celebrate. Have a super day, super week in heaven if you don't. Bless you. Have a great week.
Thanks for listening to the Spiritual Unity Radio Network. Join us 7 nights a week for exciting programming covering a variety of expressions of faith. And remember, all manifestations of the divine are equally valid.